Hello, everybody. I am joining you from Paris in the afternoon. However, I think there's some people joining from America, so good morning to you guys. Please send me a message in the chat so I know you're there, so I'm not just talking to myself. We will start in a minute. Just wait for people to arrive and get on the page. So there is a chat box as well as a question box. So please feel free to ask any questions throughout the event. I will be keeping an eye on it, but also got some people in the background answering questions for me. We'll just wait another minute. It's a horrible rainy day here in France instead of in England. Some more people connecting. Please say hi. We'll get started in a minute. Yeah, you have the emoji as well. Please wave. Please send emojis. Okay, we'll get started. So thank you very much for being here. We are very proud to present the Conversion Funnel Benchmark Report. I'm Madeleine and I'm Head of International at Poool and Editor-in-Chief of the Audiences in English. And this webinar is here to present the report, but also work through the benchmarks for you to ask questions and for us to dive deeper into the results. So just a little introduction to Poool. Poool is the membership and subscription suite. We are a simple all-in-one audience conversion, management and retention platform to turn content into business. We launched in 2016 with our first product, Access, which is an audience conversion platform, supporting publishers in launching and managing their paywall registration and cookie wall strategies. Since then, we've also launched Subscribe, which is a subscription management software, and soon to be launching Engage, which is about retaining your members and subscribers. We have 150 clients around the world in 12 countries, I believe, some of the logos down there. We are the French market leaders and gradually spreading across the world, which is brilliant. So a bit about this report. It's based on anonymized benchmarks from digital publishers, including Poool clients, but not all of our clients. And it's based around a 4-step conversion funnel that I'll present in a minute. We've not only presented the benchmarks, but we're also presenting real-life case study examples for you to learn from and really apply these benchmarks, putting it into context, making them actually actionable, including as well techniques to improve performance for each KPI and ultimately increase your conversion rates. A bit about the data. So we analyze conversion data from 60 Poool clients, but this includes 85 brands. So some of the clients have multiple brands in 10 countries around the world, including France, Australia, Belgium, Luxembourg, Slovenia, and multiple countries in Africa. We made an effort to pick a range of publishers of different sizes, different publisher types. We've got B2B, traditional press, digital only, lifestyle, etc., as well as different levels of different number of page views, as well as a mix of print plus digital and digital only. However, these benchmarks only relate to the digital subscriptions. The important framework This report includes benchmarks from 4 key metrics from Pool's optimized conversion funnel framework that we use with clients as an alternative to the traditional single conversion metric. So instead of concentrating on just the paywall alone, this framework follows the user journey towards converting via the paywall, starting from the moment a user arrives on your site through to visiting a premium content, seeing the paywall, clicking on the subscribe button, and eventually, hopefully, converting. But why did we feel the need to build an alternative conversion funnel? So the traditional user to subscriber conversion metric was actually originally designed for the e-commerce industry, where the buying process is a lot more impulsive. But for digital publishers, there's a lot more at play, including engagement, of course, and the steps leading up to the paywall and conversion. Of course, a user is very unlikely to visit your site for the first time and move straight through this funnel and convert, but accompanied by engagement strategies implemented over time and soft conversion steps, such as signing up to a newsletter or registration, this funnel is hugely valuable. And there's 2 key reasons for this. So firstly, it takes into account the user journey prior to the paywall, understanding that a user's decision to convert doesn't just happen at the point of the paywall. And secondly, it breaks the single conversion metric into 5 for you to pinpoint exactly where you're losing traffic to make very targeted corrective actions. What's the point of you building the most beautiful paywall if no one ever sees it? So let's dive into the benchmarks, starting with the first step in the funnel, paid content visibility. So this is about the percentage of traffic on premium content, i.e. how many users on your website actually visit a premium content. So just by the way, we're using a box and whisker graph, it's called, for these benchmarks. And the idea is that this shows the upper and lower quartiles of results, as well as both extremes and the overall average. So here, most publishers ended up in the 50% to 88% mark, whilst the average is 61%. So the value of this step is that the action of visiting a premium content brings the user closer to subscribing, as a user is on the article where they have the potential of being exposed to the paywall. Whilst your free content that isn't blocked by a paywall has the goal of increasing engagement and allowing users to discover your value, premium content should create a certain level of frustration in order to encourage a user to subscribe. Conversion, after all, is about finding a balance between frustration and engagement. So just note the lowest result, 0.4% here, came from a publisher who'd only just launched their premium strategy. So they wanted to reduce the risks of a paywall on traffic, SEO, ad revenue. So they started with really low visibility. And also note that some publishers in the study employed a hard paywall strategy, which means that 100% of traffic goes on, 100% of content is blocked by a paywall, which means they have very high, like 100% percentage of traffic on premium content. So we've actually taken those ones out here just to focus on freemium models. So how do you optimize this metric? Now, most people would assume that you need to produce more premium content, but actually you simply need to increase the visibility of your existing premium content. So how can you do this? You can promote it inside other articles to encourage recirculation, and for those who are on free content to then visit premium content. You can place more premium content in your newsletter, on social media, and other areas just to get people clicking on it. And place premium content high up on the homepage. So the example here is of the Portuguese publisher Publico, who marks premium content with a tag, exclusive, in a single color that represents subscription across their site. At the time of this study, in total, their homepage had 44 premium articles out of a total of 100, i.e. 44% of articles are subscriber only, significantly increasing the number of users who will likely move from step 1 to step 2 to be exposed to the paywall. We have a case study example here of a Poool client, AOC. Their goal of this test was to strengthen the visibility of their premium offer not just on premium content, but on their entire website. So to achieve this, they worked with our consultancy team to integrate a banner onto pages with high traffic, so the homepage, section pages, etc. Considering it as a type of informal paywall, increasing the ratio of visitors exposed to the publisher's subscription offer, even before they clicked on a premium article. This led to more readers moving through the funnel with a 329% increase in click-through rate, a 64% increase in paywall visibility rate, and 3.5 times the number of subscriptions. So we can see that it's had a positive effect on the steps following. The second step in the funnel is paywall visibility. So how many of the users who actually visited a premium article then saw the paywall? And you'd actually be surprised about how much of your traffic is lost at this stage. Users visit a premium article but never actually see the paywall, as it's either too low on the page or it's too slow to load because of too many ads or a heavy paywall script. The average here is 52%. The first point to note is that these results align with our 2020 benchmark study that found an average of 30 to 60% paywall visibility rate. However, we're also seeing more examples at the higher end of this scale as publishers become increasingly more mature in their digital subscription strategies, blocking readers earlier on in the article. American and British publishers, for instance, are arguably some of the most mature in their paywall models and are blocking 80% or more of their content, with many examples at 100%. I'll come back to those in a minute. So how can you optimize this metric? You can test wall placement based on the content type. So for your more in-depth or specialized articles, so for instance, political content or content that's very focused, you could block the content higher up and leave other more general or news content with a paywall that is lower down the page. You should definitely employ a different wall on mobile devices. Users act differently on mobiles, and you've got a smaller screen. So the paywall should adapt to this and be a different size, different design, and wording and everything, so then it fits on the smaller screen and is adapted to the amount of content that's shown on mobiles. You can optimize the order in which scripts are called to the page to make sure that the paywall is prioritized. Consider testing paywalls that block in a different way. I'll talk about this in a second. And you could also allow journalists to configure the paywall placement in their CMP. So we can do this on the audiences, and I can see Laura typing, sharing this article. But Eric Labraz shared an article on the audiences with us about the a hourglass framework. And the idea is that the paywall is integrated into a journalist's story. So you introduce the story, you kind of set the scene, and you create excitement and anticipation, and then you block. So that then you have a lead in and entice the user to convert in order to read the rest of the article. You can also test 100% wall visibility, as these three very well-known examples demonstrate. So you've got Financial Times, which have a full page wall. The New York Times, which has an anti-scroll wall, so you can't scroll down the page. Or the Washington Post that has a pop-up, sticky pop-up that you can't close unless you leave the page or convert. And we've also got another case study, this time from Elle magazine, who wanted to increase their paywall visibility rate on premium articles to move users through the funnel, as we've been discussing. So they covered 10% more of their content, so moved from 80% of content covered to 90%. And the number of readers seeing the paywall increased by 3.9% in 5 weeks, and the click-through rate increased from 0.34% to 0.48%. Now, I will say here that we wouldn't necessarily recommend directly copying these strategies, as covering 90 to 100% of your content can lead to quite high frustration rates, especially amongst less engaged user segments, or if you've only just launched a paywall strategy. However, you can perhaps test these strategies out on your most engaged user segment, or employ this technique on maybe the final free article in a metered strategy. Step 3 is click-through rates. So how many of the users who see the paywall then click on the subscribe button? So as you can see, we're only just arriving at the paywall, which shows how this framework helps you understand exactly where you're losing traffic, even before showing the paywall. The average click-through rate is 1.3%. Note the 2 examples on the far right are just that a single publisher achieved 3.5% and another single publisher achieved 3.9%. These are very high examples, and they actually worked with our consultancy team to continuously test design and wording, which I'll come to in a minute. And one brilliant strategy that's worth mentioning is that even small regular changes to your paywall design, messaging, and the style of the paywall can have a big impact on click-through rates. So for instance, this graph shows one of the clients in this study who continuously changed their paywall design. And you can see that each time they did, there was an increase in click-through rates. And this change was sometimes just as simple as changing the image or the color based on national holidays or sales or events. How can you optimize this metric? So arguably the most valuable and effective strategy to optimize paywall click-through rate is a dynamic model, one where the wall adapts to the user's profile or context. So what can you adapt? You can adapt the design, have different colors, images, add a photo of journalists. We found this to be very effective, or change the format. So a banner, a paywall box like we've seen, or a pop-up. You can change the offers, so you could compare annual versus monthly pricing, discounted offers, the number of the offers on the wall. You can try out different wording. So the value proposition is one of the most effective things to change, personalizing to the person or the content type. What can you actually adapt to? So the content type, is this wall on an article talking about general news or about politics? It could be based on the source of traffic. Did this user come from a newsletter, someone who is very engaged in your content already and signed up to a newsletter and visits your site on a regular basis? Or is this someone who's just found you on social media or through a partner and has never visited your site before? You can do it based on the reader's location. So The Guardian has on their, not on their paywall, but on the kind of wall at the bottom of all articles, they have really personalized messaging. And it'll say, now I'm in France, it'll say, you're joining us from France. Very personalized to the individual. The ways to succeed in this dynamic strategy are to kind of make this a normal thing in your calendar. So add a calendar event to remind yourself to update your paywall at least once a month. Or build designs around key events such as sales, launch events, or based on your audience's calendars like Christmas, summer holidays, Black Friday, using colors and designs to mark these and preparing your designs ahead of time so then they're ready to go. Thank you, Laura. Laura's just shared a interesting article from the blog that shares some other examples of this dynamic paywall strategy. So Elle magazine again, who did a dynamic paywall strategy based on the source of traffic. So we've got 2 of their newsletters here, and users coming from each letter saw a different type of paywall. You can see that the wording, I know it's in French, but the wording at the top and the first two bullet points are different based on whether a user came from their Psychology Sex newsletter or from fashion. And actually this text is adapted to the user's interest. So obviously users coming from your fashion newsletter know they're interested in fashion. So make the most of this to write a copy that appeals to that interest and really convinces them to subscribe, forefronts the value in your subscription base that is appealing to that specific interest. The Washington Post, it's a very simple example, but they've changed, it's hard to see, but I think I put my VPN to be in the US. And so we've got a dollar sign and then a pound sign. Even simple adapting the currency on your paywall can have a positive impact on conversion rates. And one of my favorite strategies based on the level of engagement of your users. So you build a different user journey based on their level of engagement. So Le Telegram, a French publisher, presents less engaged users with a soft conversion wall, so registration wall, collecting their email address, first-party data, increasing propensity to subscribe, increasing engagement, getting them sign up to the newsletter, to make them more likely to subscribe in the future, whilst fan users who are more engaged and already signed up to the newsletter are presented with a hard paywall. And this led to 84% increase in subscribers and 75% increase in members within a year. I'll come on to registration, the value of registration a bit later on. Now, the all-important conversion rates, of course, the most important step in the funnel. So how many users who click through your paywall end up paying to become a subscriber? So the benchmark here is 1.7%, but we do see a very wide range. For comparison, Piano's 2021 benchmark found a conversion rate of 0.22% for anonymous users, who make up on average about 90% of a publisher's audience. But some people might be shocked by this metric and think that they're a bit low, but there's a reason for this, an important reason. It's because there's a huge difference in performance between anonymous users and registered members who are highly more engaged. And when we look at the percentage of traffic of these two audience segments, as you can see in our data from last year, we'll see that up to 90%, 88.9% in this data of users are anonymous and volatile with a low level of engagement, which shows the value of a registration model and soft conversion steps such as newsletter sign up prior to the paywall. To give you some other data points, the New York Times registration model has increased conversion rates to subscription by more than 40%. Registered users on L'Equipe in France are 13 times more likely to subscribe than anonymous users, whilst at The Independent, these de-anonymized users are 45 times more likely to subscribe, which shows the value of registration as a soft conversion step prior to the paywall. Aside from that, how can you optimize your overall conversion rates? Firstly, optimize the steps prior to the paywall and the ones that we've worked through today. If you increase conversion rates prior to this step, you'll see that it'll have an incremental effect. It will culminate into a positive impact on your overall conversion rates. You can reduce the number of steps in the funnel, making it easier to subscribe and reducing any friction points. I'll come back to this in a minute. A/B testing, wording, offers, design. This is your most valuable tool for increasing conversion rates. We've got a good article which Laura will share about A/B testing benchmarks to give you some inspiration. And you should also get rid of any distractions at this time. Your user has moved through the funnel and they're engaged and practically ready for subscription. Now is not the time to show advertising or additional click-through CTA buttons. It's the time to prioritize subscription. So some examples of reducing steps in the conversion funnel. So we have an example of a French publisher here who integrated payment into their wall using Stripe and Poool. They added like a countdown until the end of their sale to kind of create an urgency to subscribe, and you could pay directly into the wall. So this increased conversion rates by 40%. The goal of their team was to increase impulsive decision making to subscribe, and so people could just subscribe with that offer without even leaving the page. You could consider integrating your subscription offers into the page. This forefronts the value of subscription and obviously reduces the steps in the funnel. It increased click-through rates by 97% and conversion rates on the paywall increased by 37%. But the important thing to note here is they built a different paywall for desktop versus mobile, like we're discussing earlier. There's only one offer, their most valuable offer on mobiles. And an example of the audiences with my head on the front, we integrate the form into the paywall, into the registration wall in our case, which facilitates and increases registration rate. So you can sign up to our newsletter without leaving the page. It's 4 clicks, which makes for a very good user experience. And thanks to Poool, we can create any form field that matches our strategy. And we can do this without tech support, which is very good for people like me who can't do anything tech related. So now we want to put the funnel all together. So this is your slide with all of the average benchmarks. What we'd recommend is finding a way to track each of these metrics and then comparing your performance to our averages. You'll be able to get the report. The report will show you all of the benchmarks that we've worked through. Compare your performance and then track your performance over time, run A/B tests to really optimize each metric. And remember that not every metric is about trying to achieve 100% or trying to increase it. It's about finding that balance between frustration and engagement, especially for those first 2 steps. So the 5 key takeaways, just to round up. Increasing paywall conversion rate starts from the moment a user arrives on your site. If you build the most beautiful paywall that converts, there's no point in having it if a user never actually sees it. Number 2, specialist media have the highest premium content and paywall visibility rate. We haven't really discussed it here, but in the report, we dive deeper into this. Specialist media have the highest number of engaged users. Well, not necessarily highest number, but highest engagement amongst their users. And this means that the specialist media can employ a more hard paywall strategy. By specialist media, I mean like publishers with a very specific niche. They talk about one topic or one area, and so their users are highly more engaged. Publishers are employing increasingly tighter paywall strategies. So if we compare our results from a study that Poool ran in 2019 and again in 2020, we can see that publishers are becoming more mature in their paywall strategies, perhaps because of a need to have a digital subscription model and increase the number of subscribers. But we're seeing people having higher number of premium content that is promoted more and paywalls that are blocking higher up on content. The visibility of your paywall on a premium article impacts conversion rates, but there is a balance to be found. 100% visibility of your paywall is not the best strategy for every publisher. Although it works for the Financial Times and Washington Post, they are very unique examples, and it may not be the optimal strategy for you. Regularly modifying the paywall design will have a significant impact on paywall conversion rates. This is your easiest way to reignite conversion rates, even if it's just changing the color or adding a new image or testing out adding someone's face, like the editor's face, in order to increase conversion rates. This reignites conversion rates and reduces paywall blindness, we call it. But ultimately, the biggest takeaway is that engagement is key. It's essential to integrate into the user journey, particularly with soft conversion strategies such as a newsletter subscription. You can integrate a newsletter wall into your content like we do on the audiences and the Poool blog, as well as a registration wall. A registration wall turns an anonymous user into a registered member and increases ad revenue, increases engagement, gets your user more trusting in you. You collect first-party data. It's incredibly valuable. We will be sending out the full report tomorrow to anyone who signed up to this webinar, and as well as these slides and a recording of this webinar. Thank you very much for signing up. We also want to take this opportunity to mention our brilliant audience conversion experts. So this is the consultancy team behind these benchmarks. They've been collecting data from our clients in order to support our clients with understanding their performance compared to others in the market. They work with our clients on a daily basis to help them surpass their business goals, better track and understand performance metrics, and apply optimization techniques that our team have learned working with 100+ publishers around the world. You can compare your performance thanks to these benchmarks. This report is available to the general public, but in the future, we're going to be launching it every quarter, but reserving it for our clients, as well as integrating it into our dashboard, as well as allowing clients to make the most of the Poool Dashboard. So empower your teams with an extra pair of hands who really understands how to maximize the value of Poool and the A/B testing, audience segmentation, and journey building functionalities. So now is the time for questions. I think I see one in the questions box. Have you found paywalls to impact referrals from organic search? Okay, paywalls and SEO is a big topic. And Laura, if you wouldn't mind sharing our white paper. We have a white paper on the Poool blog called Paywalls and SEO, and it discusses exactly that. The answer is no, it doesn't. Paywalls don't affect SEO if you employ the right techniques. So it's all about whether your paywall is integrated in the front side or the back side, technically. If it's a frontal blocking, then Google can read the whole content, whether the content is behind a paywall or not. And although this is easier to bypass, actually the benefits that you're going to gain from using a frontal method are highly more valuable than the people that you lose from bypassing, because barely anyone will bypass. And even then, those users are not really likely to subscribe in the future. That is the white paper. Thank you, Laura. That gives you everything you'll need to know for paywalls and SEO. Native content calling to subscription. I assume you mean like in a Facebook article, you promote subscription directly there. Anything that is avoiding an extra click is a brilliant strategy. And bringing users to your site from other websites, obviously incredibly valuable. However, one thing I would note is that people coming from social are usually have a lower level of engagement than those who come from like your newsletter or from searching for your media. So one thing to recommend there is to make use of a UTM source to build a trigger, so that then users coming from a Facebook article maybe have free access to one of your premium articles. You have like a banner on that page and you say, hey, thanks for coming to our site. We'd love to offer you this premium article for free to allow you to discover our value. And that way you don't lose them, you don't block them and turn them away, but you increase their engagement and you encourage them to come back for more value in the future. So, Laura, sorry, you're going to have to share another article, but there's an example of a French publisher who worked with Poool and Upday to build a trigger that meant that users coming from Upday, which is their news aggregator site, had a special unique user journey that wasn't a full blocking wall. And the goal was to increase engagement. So I think it included a registration strategy, which is probably your most valuable strategy, registration, to then log that user and find out who they are, learn about their interests, and personalize the strategy and the wording, etc. to them. Thank you very much, Laura. Thanks, Gregor, for the congratulations. How do you collect data from publishers? For the benchmark, I assume you mean. So it's a mix of the Poool Dashboard. So the Poool Dashboard is the Poool Dashboard has an analytics page, and it is based off this conversion funnel. We have metrics measuring each of these steps in the conversion funnel, which really supports our publishers in breaking down conversion steps and optimizing each of those metrics. So it's measured from that as well as from Google Analytics. And some people use Google Analytics, some people use AT Internet. So those are the three places that data was collected from. Thank you for that question. If anyone has any other questions, please fire away. Brilliant questions so far. I'm going to use this moment of lack of questions to promote the audiences, our B2B media, where we share insights such as this, as well as the Poool blog. Plenty of content, hopefully, to answer all of your questions. And we will be sharing the report, as I said, via email tomorrow. But if you have any further questions, please feel free to give me an email. Let me drop my email in here. Please feel free to send me any questions and get in touch with our brilliant audience conversion experts. Ludovine is our head of consultancy, so I can put you in touch with her, or ludovine@poool.tech. But thank you very much for joining. I hope you have a great rest of your day, whatever time it is where you are. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this benchmark, as well as where you stand, and if you have any feedback or recommendations or questions. Thank you very much.